episode 36 of the podcast. Behavior change isn't just about the dogs. In this episode, we're going to talk about how humans being calm, cool, and collected makes a big difference in the way that the animals interact with us, as well as how well we can do our job. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, certified behavior consultant for canines, certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is where grooming and training meet. On the podcast, I've talked an awful lot about teaching dogs to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative, and referring to that as the 3 C's, because we want a dog to just kind of relax, be repositioned, stand up. They don't have to be actively doing anything other than just letting us do our job. They don't need to nose target, they don't need to chin target, they don't need to be actively giving us paws or moving around, just to chill out and do our job. But it's not just teaching the animals, and I want to kind of cover what we need to learn too. So there are 3 C's for us. So for the dogs, it's calm, comfortable, and cooperative. But for us, for the handler, for the owner, for the vet, for the groomer, for anybody else, I want you to think calm, cool, and collected, because we need to change a little bit about the way we interact with a dog who is scared. And maybe you've been doing it all along, and that's awesome. But let's just talk about it anyway, because I want to give you some more insights on how you can explain it to somebody else. Often we are explaining to customers how to work on things. And so to have a variety of ways to explain it for them, for every individual to have their aha moment. So let's start off with the fact that when we're calm, cool, and collected, I almost said the dog version. That's all right. We're just going to keep going. But when you're calm, cool, and collected, you're able to watch the animals and their responses and be more objective about what you see, feel, and hear. Like we've talked about observations versus like labels and things like, oh, he's dominant or he's mean, but to look at the behavior. And when you're calm, cool, and collected, you're far more likely to be able to see, hey, he just stiffened up. He just froze, or he cowered in the back of the cage. I went to reach for him in the tub, and he moved away from me really quickly when I tried to touch his back end. Right, to observe. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you hear? To be able to do that, you kind of need to be calm, cool, and collected. You really can't do it when you're also worked up. One of the things that many people don't understand about grooming is that grooming turns into this beat the clock game. I remember grooming in shops, and like I would time myself, and I still do once in a while just to make sure that I'm keeping my skills up, right? But to time yourself, because you're thinking all the time, okay, I've got that dog to finish, and if I get this one out of the tub by this amount of time, and then I go work on that one by the time this one's ready to dry, and this one has to be home at 3, and like there's always this feeling of I need to get everything done on time. And if a dog gives us a problem, we suddenly kind of go, oh no, oh no, we're just watching our whole day fall apart, right? Um, I don't really know how to cook. I'm terrible at cooking, right? But to me, that's sort of like, oh no, I've got part of the meal is going to be ready, and then we're going to be sitting around waiting for this part to finish, right? Which I watched my mom like struggle with, trying to like, okay, Thanksgiving, this is where we're going to start these things, right? So grooming can be a game of beat the clock, and it can be really difficult. And so if we are calm, cool, and collected, we've already explained a safety policy to our owners. They already know if their dog starts having a problem, we're going to slow it on down. We still charge for our time. Your dog might not be totally completed today. This is how we do things, and they're already on board with it. So you can calm down, take a deep breath, right? And think about, all right, this dog is having trouble today, and I need to help him through it. Okay. So along with just being able to observe better and be able to respond differently, you're able to let go of the idea that it has to be done right now or the owners will be upset, or that you're not going to be able to charge full price, or that you're going to be late for those other dogs. You still had a certain amount of time that you planned on with this dog, and you shouldn't be making everybody else late. You should just go ahead and say, well, all right, and On to the next one. Certainly, there are times where that fails. I will tell you, there are plenty of times where you have a dog who's soapy, and that's when you find out that they're really afraid of a sprayer. Like, well, oh goodness, we're going to spend some extra time on this. And what are you going to do? I mean, you can't send them home soapy, right? There are lots of things that we can kind of like say, all right, well, we're going to ignore this. But then there are other things that we end up having to work through just patiently and relaxed, calm, cool, and collected. It's really about being able to be patient, be in the moment, and be able to help that animal. And if we're thinking in terms of, I'm going to help this dog today, right? So you're also able to assess if a dog needs a different approach or needs more time because you are calm, because you're cool, you're collected, you're not letting your emotions get all wrapped up, you're not trying to beat the clock, you're not worried about the owners, you're just focused on this dog for the amount of time that you have for this dog. And that one's also important for owners. I want you to think about how many owners are like, oh gosh, we tried, and then he turns and he tries to bite us when we're brushing him, and we just, oh my god, and then it all stops. We tell him no when we stop, right? Like, they're not calm, cool, and collected. They're getting all wrapped up in the moment, and they're getting kind of freaked out. Tech talk, freaked out, right? But um they're not showing the dog that this is safe. Okay, that's part of calm, cool, and collected. To be able to be the person that is thinking about safety, being able to be rational, being able to observe, right? You are also less likely to let stress make things worse. There are plenty of times when stress makes things worse. Definitely. You start getting stressed out and you start rushing. Maybe you're rushing because this dog is now taking more time, or the owners start rushing through it because they think, well, he's just got to learn it, right? Um, so I want you to think there are times where we're able to just take a step back, center ourselves, whatever word you want to call it, and just be calm, cool, and collected. Think about what is happening and not let it stress you out. Okay. You're also less likely to do super active things that make things worse, right? If we're trying to keep the dogs calm, then anything super active isn't really helpful for helping them be calm. I want you to think there are two different versions of this. There's the chanting, "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. See, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. It didn't hurt, didn't hurt, didn't hurt, didn't hurt." Right? And I've done it too, right? And then there's the other side of the coin, right? The other side of the same problem, which is no, 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 Sparky, no, right? Like that overactive, I just feel the need to act on this and I'm active and everything is active and I'm so frustrated and I need to get this done, right? So if you are calm, cool, and collected, and you're thinking and you are mindful and you are saying, okay, let's take a look at what we're doing. How can I help this dog be calm? Now, here's another version, right? Your calmness is physically helpful for the animal you're working with. Think about just being around someone who's calm. Right? Isn't that the person you would want to have around if you're finding something challenging? Right? If I went to the ER and had like, a big gash in my arm and was bleeding, I don't want someone going, "Oh my god." I want the person who's like, "Hey, let's stop the bleeding. How about you take a seat?" Right? I mean, think about, like, there are times where calmness is almost contagious, right? Where you can just be like, all right, I'm going to take charge of this. And I have some human examples for you. Don't you worry. um, so, for people who want to feel like they're in charge, now keeping in mind that a lot of our owners kind of feel this need to, like, no, I'm in charge and he needs to listen to me, right? It's kind of that dominance theory stuff that really has nothing to do with dog training, but I want you to think about ways you can help them feel like this makes sense. So if they are the person who needs to feel in charge, well, calm, cool, and collected does that for you. It's the feeling of, I don't need to get upset, I'm already in charge. I don't need to take this personally. This dog isn't doing this to be personal. This dog is doing this because they don't understand what's expected and they're scared, right? And if it is to a point where the dog feels like they're getting personal, step back and observe, right? Watch what's going on. Think more about it because dogs very rarely are like, "I'm gonna bite that guy on Tuesday." Yeah, that dude's gonna get bit on Tuesday, right? Now, for the people who want to be their dog's best friend, and we see that a lot too. That's the other side. And often we find that more with owners. Not so much with the dog professionals because we have a different view, but owners sometimes have the rose colored glasses. And what I mean by that is that they are so sure that this dog needs um, love and affection. And after that, everything will be fine. But the dog needs more than just love and affection, right? I'm a positive reinforcement trainer, and every once in a while, there's someone who thinks that we're using sunshine and rainbows to train. I'm like, oh wow, sunshine and rainbows. That's cheaper than treats. That'd be good. Um, but I want you to think about the people who want to just be their dog's best friend and just want their dog to always be happy, right? Calm, cool, and collected does that too, right? The feeling is I'm going to keep everything safe. That's a pretty powerful message. Like, hey, you're safe. I'm keeping everything safe. I'm not letting it get to me. I'm not getting upset. I'm not taking anything personally. I'm observing your behavior and I'm willing to work with you. Right. So, for our owners who are on either of those extremes, calm, cool, and collected helps them be the type of owner that can help their dog calm down. Not necessarily that they're helping you on the grooming table, because oftentimes that's a hazard. For a number of reasons. Sometimes it's just because you're in a grooming setting with other dogs in the room and you don't want the liability of having an owner there. But even when I'm at somebody's home, there are times where I'm like, I don't think this owner is quite the right match for helping me with anything. Right. um, but I want you to think about communicating it with them so that when they are working on something at home, they're able to be helpful instead of like, oh, he's going to learn it. They said he needs to learn about brushing and accidentally tormenting the dog with the brush because that happens a lot, right? But the other thing about being calm, cool, and collected is that you put yourself in a proactive situation instead of a reactive situation. And what that means is that you are, instead of just putting out fires, like, "Oh no, it happened again. What do I do? Oh no, it happened again. What do I do? Oh no, it happened again." Right? Now you're saying, "I wonder if it will happen again, and what do I want to do if it happens again?" Right? You are proactive. You're saying, "I am getting on top of this before anything goes wrong." Right? It's a plan, and I'm just going to be calm, comfortable, cooperative dog. And then for me to be calm, cool, and collected, we're going to work together. We're going to get through it. And some of this, I have a bunch of examples for people, but also from large animal work that I've done because I worked on a dairy farm and I've worked with horses. And there are things that we do with dogs and with smaller animals that we wouldn't do with larger animals because we know if we get really, really active, they get really active. So calm, cool, and collected.
If you're enjoying my podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes.
I'm going to start us off with some human examples. Now, imagine you are waiting at the registry for what seems like a lifetime, right? You're sitting there thinking, oh man, I gave myself like an hour and a half to be here, and this is taking even longer. You're starting to stress out, right? By the time you get your number called and you go up to that person can totally change your mood to make it worse or make it better. And I can think of a number of times where, you get up to the window and they're like, but you don't have this piece of paper, and you're just about ready to lose it. I think everyone has felt that at some point. You're like, oh, I told them what I needed and they said I had the right paperwork, because I don't know about where you live, but in New Hampshire and in Mass, the two states that I've lived in, there's usually someone there making sure you have the right paperwork before you get in line. Thank goodness, because that makes life so much easier. But that person at the window, the way they treat you when you're already under stress can change the entire mood. So now let's imagine you get up to the window and that person's like, excellent, great. It seems like you have everything right here. I'm going to need a check from, oh, you already have it written out. Excellent. Let's find out what the exact cost is going to be. You're all set. Have a great day, right? You find somebody who's competent, who's really up to date on what exactly needs to be done. They're pleasant. They can totally change the mood. So when we think about dogs in our grooming situations or at a vet situation, they're already apprehensive, right? And if we look at a card and think, oh, God, it says he's a big problem. Sure, I don't want to groom him, like, or I don't, oh God, here we go. Get a couple extra tacks and a towel and some leather gloves, right? Like, if we already have that feeling, our interactions are going to be different. But if we're calm, cool, and collected, and keeping in mind the dog that we have today, and that we're able to kind of pull ourselves together, right? And be in the moment, watch what is happening today, and try to help that animal and be thinking about, I'm trying to help that animal. It makes a big difference, just like it does at the registry when they're like, I'm just trying to help you get this car on the road. Let me get you your plates. You know, and you're thinking, thank God, because now you're excited. My car is going to be on the road, right? Um, Now, another example I want to give you guys. I want you to think back to some point when you were a kid and one of the adults nearby was getting stressed out or scared. Um, and I'm going to give an example from my own life. I grew up around sailboats and I hate sailing. I don't like boats, but I grew up around sailboats and we were coming through the channel. It's already a bad day, already bad weather, already a bad channel to try to get through. And the dinghy starts to sink, tied to the back of the boat. And my dad, like, it was the first time I really remember watching my dad get scared, because either he's going to cut it loose here in the channel or it's going to continue to go down. It's going to really cause problems for the boat that we're in, right? I mean, it's a dinghy that's supposed to be just towed behind us, and now that thing is sinking, right? And him trying to collect his thoughts and pull it together and, rig something to haul it on deck. Um, so it was one of those moments where we saw dad get scared, right? Like watching mom get scared wasn't the same kind of feeling, but dad, wow. Ooh, that was weird. We're all like on high alert, right? Like, oh my God, how do I help? What can I do? Just get out of the way. Okay, I'll get out of the way, right? Because the adults around you, if they're scared, everybody gets a little bit scared, apprehensive, right? So if we think about the animals in our care, if we're stressed out, right, that's often going to cause the animals to be stressed out. If we're worked up, if we're scared about something, right, it just kind of feeds off of us. I will give you another example. This was a dog example. One of my guys is super, super sensitive to people. Like he loves people, but if he thinks you're upset with him, he falls apart. If I drop something in the kitchen and I'm upset with myself and let out a grr, he's cowering on the floor like I'm mad at him. I'm like, oh, dude, I wasn't even looking at you, right? Just because being around a stressed person is something he is highly, highly sensitive to. Right. And that's just an individual thing. My other guy would be like, I'll come back later when you're in a better mood. Right. But for many of the dogs in a grooming setting or in a veterinary setting, if we are stressed out or if their owners are stressed out or if, it just starts to snowball, starts to get crazy. Plenty of times where I've had to calm an owner down. And back when I was a tech, I did it a lot where it's like, hey, how are you? Hey, how are your kids? You start talking to them about anything else and helping them relax. And some of the ways that you do that if you're talking to owners is to slow down the pace that you talk at. Just slow everything down and do it with the dogs too, right? But when we get stressed out, the animals react to it really pretty quickly. And sometimes that's why you might find that a dog is different for a different vet or for a different tech or for a different groomer. There were plenty of times where I was grooming in one shop in particular where another groomer was like, how come he's always good for you? Because he's not good for me. right? Like I'm just more patient. I don't get upset with them and I don't take it personally. Another example for you guys, because I think this is so important. I think that it's really important for us all to remember that our behavior makes a difference. So if we're calm, cool, and collected, it really makes a difference for the other beings in the room, even the other humans, but certainly the other dogs, right? Um, when I worked on a dairy farm, it wasn't a milking parlor. It was actually like getting down on the floor next to the cow and putting the milking machine on her. So it was a lot of kneeling down next to feet. And every once in a while you had a cow that just was having a tough day, or it was spring and it was the beginning of the flies and none of them are used to it anymore and they're super super flitchy and they're flicking their tails around and they're stomping around and they're just kind of get used to the feeling of bugs. We're all kind of getting used to the feelings of bugs. Farm work's tough. Um, but what happens is that when they start getting really, really twitchy like that, you really have to slow down. Hey, all right. I know. The flies are bothering you. All right. Chill out. Calm down here with me. And slow petting, calm talking, right? And you try to get that milking machine on her, right? Um, because if we get really active too, not only is that an animal that's already acting up, already being agitated, already feeling uncomfortable, right? But they can easily just walk away. Most of them didn't try it, but I mean they're tied, but most of the time it was like a loop of baling twine that we had them tied with. They knew they could just pop and walk away, right? Um, yeah, I know, very, very high tech. But with a large animal, we instinctively calm everything down. And with small animals, I think sometimes we forget about that part. We don't necessarily remember, like, oh, slow everything down, calm everything down, long, smooth strokes if you're touching an animal, slow down how you talk. When I do when I do training lessons, every once in a while, I tell people, I'm like, okay, so when I get to your house, because of the problems your dog is having, it won't be the conversation we're having here on the phone because I'm going to put on my 3 a.m. smooth jazz voice, and it's going to be, hey, aren't you a good dog? Not the way I usually talk. But these are some of the ways that we can help a dog relax and help them understand that we are in control. We're going to try to keep everything safe. But one last thing about calm, cool, and collected, it feels good for us. It's a habit to get into because you know what? It's going to make your day so much better. It really does. To be able to be in that mindset and just be like, okay, no, I'm not going to stress about this. I'm going to take my time, gonna collect myself. I'm gonna be calm. Everything's cool, right? It makes a huge, huge difference for us, for our own work environment, for our own mental health, and actually for the people around us. There are plenty of times where just everybody choosing to just be, you know what? Let's just calm it all down meant that everybody had a better day. Everybody started to work together and relax it even more, right? So the 3 C's for people, for owners, for groomers, for vets, for techs, for anybody in the dog world who has a dog who's finding something challenging, just calm, cool, and collected. We're focusing on what we do want, not just for the animals, but for us. Because if we're modeling that everything is fine, that makes huge progress. That alone makes huge progress before we even get into, trying to train or trying to help them with something very specific. Just us getting into the mind frame, right? Start thinking about everything is going to be fine. I'm going to keep everything safe. I'm observing what's happening. I'm not taking it personally. I'm not going to let this go too far, right? um, so this week, this week's action step, I want you guys to be thinking about ways to become cool and collected. And every once in a while, just kind of step back and ask yourself, am I? calm, cool, and collected. One of the ways that I do calm, cool, and collected for myself is I take a step back and just deep breath. Just let it go, right? Just sometimes I even need to shake it off, right? So that's what I want you to work on this week. Our action step: focus on being calm, cool, and collected, observing behavior, not taking it personally, be thinking about what is going on, be helpful, be thinking about this animal needs my help to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative while I'm being calm, cool, and collected. um, so, everybody, have a great week and stay curious.
If you'd like to talk to me, you can find me through my grooming and training business, happycrittersdogtraining.com, my email, chrissy@happycritters.net, and through the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook page. And we have these awesome devices in our pockets that allow us to do live video with each other. I can help you with the dog on your table. We can set up live lessons, and you may be surprised at how much we can get accomplished together via video.